Truth Bombers Podcast.
Truth Bombers Podcast.
The group chat turned podcast with your hosts, Russ, Lach, and BJ.
All right. The one we've all been waiting for, round one. This is the Truth Bombers Podcast, episode 9. I'm joined in studio, as usual, by Lachie McCluskey, and we are joined as what is becoming, as per usual, via video link from Richmond, with one Russell Wilkes, who is, by all reports, violently hungover. So,
no, I was hungover. I was hungover yesterday. This is, a few more problems come in place since then.
I was going to say, it must be given the scoreline that we saw yesterday versus Geelong, but if it's a 2-day thing, then probably just made you feel worse.
It wasn't the best. Wasn't the best way to enjoy a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
See those scorelines.
Well, we'll get to it. We're going to go through the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to play our favourite locks, quick draw questions. We'll do the VFL update, and we're going to have a chat about what this means now. Do we reevaluate the rest of the season? But to kick us off, mate, 3 words describe the game.
Alrighty.
Hang on now. Sorry, my apologies.
Let's
get into it.
Let's crack it.
And after a loss like that, cheers, mate. The hardest part of this weekend was actually choosing what to buy from the bottle shop. I thought, should I buy 0 alcohol to go with our 0 intensity or match pressure from yesterday? Should I go something bottom shelf to really cement it? And then I thought, we probably need at least 1 win on the board.
We should have got something cheap and nasty.
Yeah,
that's what we were.
Is that your 3 words? Going
no, they weren't my throat. I'm a little bit more harsh, gutless, embarrassing, and disgrace.
I think it's going to be one of those episodes.
They are my 3 words. We were pathetic, absolutely pathetic.
Yeah, I think for me, my 3 words were expected, surprised, and I like the word gutless as well. It was, I was very vocal the last couple of weeks that I did not feel confident going into this game, and I thought that our back line was just going to tear us apart. Their forward line was going to tear our back line apart, and it was going to be almost 100% conversion into 50s. But I thought the mids would do enough around the contest to stop that ball going in there. That first 2 quarters, though, were just, awful.
I put boys against men because that's what it looked like. It looked like the grade 3s taking on, the year 10s at lunchtime.
It looked like we were playing a practice game still, and they were ready for round 1, which was disappointing because I think we had, we went back to training early. We thought we were going to have that good start to a season we haven't had for 10 years now. We thought that was going to happen. It looked like we were just out there for another pracky game.
Well, let's get into it. Let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we'll start with the good. And funnily enough that you should say that, Russ, because for me, my good is actually our marketing and hype team. Because I think we're into what they've been pushing over the summer and into the preseason. And I think that's potentially what hurts the most is you go in now with, we've said it's not last year where we had no expectations and we're pleasantly surprised that this year there is the weight of expectation on performance. And it's very clear that we are, as you said, a flattering 10 goals off where the best teams are. And given how hot it was yesterday, if I was the Cats, I probably would have stopped running in the 4th quarter as well. So, funnily enough, I did stop running in the 4th quarter of the Pracky game yesterday. Is that what we are? Are we just is this going to be a year where we're crushed under the weight of expectations? Are we all hype and piss and wind and no real kind of display of physicality to go with that?
Surely after that performance, it brings it back to earth. If they were drinking their own bath water, reading the press, thinking they were better than where they were, the Cats gave them a wake-up call. So at least it came in round 1, and you can do something about it very early in the season. If we had lost by maybe 4 or 5 goals where Cats hadn't have been playing well and it might have glossed over a few things, maybe then you go maybe there's hope. I think it put us back down where we should be, needing to prove ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, we're a team that went 1-8 against top 8 teams last year.
1-9.
1-9.
Counting the final versus the Doggies.
Dogs. All right, so 1-9, and we talked about things like taking some steps forward this year, and I don't think Geelong are a top 4 side this year.
No.
And after what they did to us and what we've got coming up the next 3 weeks, I'm pretty worried. We talked a lot about, yes, we're probably going to be 0-3, 1-4 around that lines, but as long as we don't take massive blowouts and we stand up against top teams and put in a fight, at least that percentage doesn't get walloped. What are we at, 50?
Just under 50.
Just under 50, which, if anyone's wondering, is basically where North Melbourne were last year at the end of the season. So...
well, let me get to my good because it's all I've got. Martin, what a performance.
Yeah.
Debut. Probably the only shining light for us. Kicked 5 goals, 27 disposals, I believe, and was probably the only player that I thought was clean, like picking up the ball, hand pass, kick. Looked like he had time when no one else did. Yeah, only shining light.
Willing to run into space. And that's a problem when the guy who's playing his first game is leading the way. Right?
Not only his first game, it wasn't even on an AFL list going into Christmas time.
Yeah.
And we're relying on him to score half of our goals for the whole entire game. Like, that's huge. The guy that's only been on the list for 2 weeks now scored half the goals for our whole entire team round 1.
Let me ask you this. With Stringer playing or with Waller playing, do you think that scoreline is 6-10 goals different than it was? Is it a closer game or is it...
It's a 4-goal closer game.
Okay.
I think if we look at their average, purely their average goals, they both roughly kick 2 goals a game.
Yeah.
I think they wouldn't have been the difference between us being really competitive against Geelong. I think there was so many players that underperformed, but I think the scoreline would have been closer.
Yeah. And then I think Russ has just made a departure back for the Porcelain Basin.
He's got to look after himself.
My goods, look, and let's stay positive for at least maybe a couple of minutes here. Obviously, Nick Martin was daylight between him and anyone else. I thought Archie Perkins tried hard for most of the day. He finished with 20. Shield was probably one of his better performances that I've seen him have. He had 23. And McGrath with 29. Merritt, standard, like 39, I think he had, but just not impactful possessions. I think Parish had 34, but again, I think I messaged you while I was watching the replay, and I'm a bit concerned now about Darcy Parish because it's now a couple of games in a row where he's looked very fumbly, missing targets, just not that, what we came to expect last year where he was hitting everything up, getting a ton of the ball, everything was falling the right way. I'm worried. I'm worried for Parish.
Yeah. I think he benefits from having Stringer in the middle and therefore his role is a little bit different. And same with Merritt to a certain extent. I think we've found out with not having a bigger body in the mid.
Yeah. And then two things we don't have. We don't have a key forward.
Yep.
Right? And we don't have...
Definitely not anymore.
We don't have a big bull. We don't have an Ollie Wines, right? Or someone who's that 90 kilo, 95 kilo mid that can run straight lines through a pack stoppage like that and cause a bit of a ruckus. The string is pretty close.
Yeah.
I'll interject a little bit there. One good thing I found was seeing Shield come back and a little bit of form. Like, he only got 20 possessions, but, his awareness and IQ around the footy actually looked like it was, coming back. I think none of us really had him sort of starting maybe on the bench, or we were wondering if he could fit himself into that best 22 of the midfield. I think he did show signs, and I was probably one of the only handful of players I thought had some form on the weekend. And with a few more games, I reckon he can get back to that sort of form we know he can get to.
Well, Russ, let's hear 3, 2, 1 then.
Best on, or you can't go past Martin, I guess. I would probably give my second to Shield.
That's Brownlow votes. Is Martin sitting on 3 Brownlow votes?
I thought
not in that game.
More impactful, and you could argue Hawkins could get the 2. I think he'll get a vote at least.
Who took my third to? I reckon I really liked
Russ,
Red Dog.
Shield.
What was that?
Who was your two?
I'd go Nick Martin first, of course. I'll go Shield second.
Shield second.
And I'll go I'm looking at Bombers players. I'd probably go Red Dog. I liked his aggression around, he got for a back line, it was down the back quite a bit, but, he was trying to make passes. He was trying to get around the ball. I think he ended up with like 26 disposal, I think. I like what he was doing out there.
Benny?
Yeah, like I had here, I put Martin, Perkins, and then McGrath for me. 3, 2, 1. I thought Stewart and Laverde, I think they did the best they can do. And I don't think they played badly. I think Stewart has really impressed me the last few weeks. And even this week, when he had a bit of time and space, his disposal was good. His decision-making's been much better. He definitely looks more comfortable back there. But he just got ragdolled. And there was a few times when he was lining up against Cameron, which I thought was interesting because as much as we didn't think Stewart was going to get the job done, we think he was in a better position to do a better job than Laverde. And so those two were switching off quite a bit, switching off each other. But yeah, I think we've been saying for 2 weeks, the way that you beat to Geelong is cut the supply off in the midfield. And we thought we've had a midfield that was capable of doing that. I think Draper, especially in the first half, was winning the majority of hit-outs. We was getting first hand ball, but we were just nowhere to be seen. Or we have 4 of our mids dive into the one contest on a one Geelong player. Ball spits out the back. They've got numbers and they're free. That is stuff that in Resi's football you're getting told. Someone calls in D1, D2, D3. One person goes to the ball, the next person goes to the next most dangerous attacker. You don't all. It's not under 10s where you just have 18 players running around chasing the ball. It's and it burned us all game. So not only do we not cut off supply, we fucking got smashed in the midfield.
We spoke about this last week. Do we have the midfield to take on Geelong? And I thought it was even a stupid question at the time. Of course we can take on Geelong in the midfield. Look at the depth. Everyone's been talking about our depth. Parish did get 35 plus touches. I think Merritt got 35 plus touches. Exactly. They were both best on with disposals for the game, and they got absolutely towed up in the midfield. Dangerfield just ran through us. Like you said, Draper was getting the first touch the ball. And it was almost a catch-22. They get a goal, and you're like, shit, now we're going to set up and try and stop them in a set-up clearance and then get another goal. And, geez, after, the second quarter, I was like, this could be 200 points if we keep going this rate. It could have been if Cameron, didn't go down. That was in that second quarter. It was nuts.
It definitely had shades of Melbourne v Geelong 8 years ago when Geelong just did them by 160 points or something. We just couldn't get near the ball. And then actually that's not true. At one point they flashed up, I think it was in the first quarter, and we had, I think, 60 to 40% of time in the forward half. And essentially what it was is every time we did go forward though, there's no one to kick to, right? There was no hit up target, there was no lead target, just in, out, goal. In, turnover, out, goal. I think Geelong were 8 entries for 8 scoring shots.
Yeah.
It's just... Yeah.
I think that's why I said it was expected, because I knew we were going to get beat. And, we said that last week. I think we're going to get beat. I just didn't think it was going to be that dominant. Because I knew once, like I said before, once it gets in there, we were expecting them to just... Stewart's just up for it. He is our number one defender, but he can't take on that back line. He's been playing one of the pracky games, but he's never going to be able to out-muscle Hawkins. He's never going to be able to outcraft someone that has the best lead-up patterns, I think, in the AFL. Someone could say for the last 4 to 10 years almost. He's doesn't have that craft to take on Hawkins. It's... I'm a bit shocked, though, that we got towed up that much in the midfield.
We got towed up everywhere.
Yeah, I reckon Kane Baldwin played like a debutant too. I'm not blaming the lack on goals on him per se. I think it reminded me of Jones playing first round last year. He just didn't look. I don't think confident. But he's the first game. I wasn't expecting too much. Not having any targets with 2 meter. I know he got 2 goals, but he just did not look comfortable out there.
I'll get to structure. I just want to quickly go through my 3-2-1. Martin, Caldwell for 2, and Perkins. I think I had to give a vote to someone, unfortunately, so Perkins deserved that.
I know, I agree with that. For someone, I love the not arrogance, but the belief he has in himself as such a small player, like to take on and to run through packs and to slow the ball down a little bit and take some risks and stuff. It's good to see that confidence and a belief in like a first or second year player, and he showed it last year too. I think with a couple more years, he's going to be absolutely, amazing.
Absolutely. I think most of the time he seems to create space for himself because he will dodge a player and he sort of looks like he's got a bit more time than he does. But I don't think many of our players look like that yesterday. I want to go through some stats.
Yep.
We can back up what we're talking about with some stats here. Geelong had...
Start with the final score.
Well, let's not even worry about that. Geelong had 15 more inside 50s. And I don't think inside 50s is the be-all, end-all. I have seen regularly teams have 10 less or 12 less and get up and win. But here are the important ones. 24 more clearances.
Wow.
42 more contested possessions. They were 12-2 up in the centre clearances to half-time. And they had 16 more scoring shots from stoppage. And I think it was something like 19-3 scores from stoppage. So if they got a stoppage in their forward half, or the forward half of the ground, they kicked a score. If we had a stoppage in our forward half, very rarely.
Geelong was still scoring.
Yeah, like Geelong just waltzed it out. And I think like those stats for me just like highlight how inept our midfield was. They got absolutely annihilated. And maybe Snelling, who's someone I think is a good player, but not as good as like top 3 in our Crichton last year. Maybe we are missing him. Obviously, he was injured. Stringer, I think, is just like such a crucial cog for us.
Langer's being out like in the first 5 minutes or something.
Langer's changed our structure, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we just don't have that bigger body or that body to really compete if we don't have like those couple of players.
Yeah. The stat that disappointed me the most was we were pretty even on tackle count. And tackle count is essentially your stat for work rate. And if you're getting beaten by 70 points, that means you don't have a lot of the ball, which means that's all you should be doing is running, chasing, and tackling, trying to get the ball back. So for tackles to be even and for that game to be as one-sided as it was, whether we talk about players in or players out or, missing opportunities or not converting, like that's just pure work rate. And we just didn't want to work. We looked, like you said, Russ, it looked like a practice game. We were kind of going through the motions. We were pretty flat. Like even guys like, Nick Hind had plenty of the ball, but just wasn't, breaking lines. And I don't know whether it's, at the end of the day too, you break lines or you win the stoppage, there's still no one to kick to, right? But
I think we found that too with like, you see the guys on the half back line. I don't know. I lost count how many times they were like, you would get out of the 50 and you'd see them just going around in circles and they're like double backing on each other and they don't know where to kick because there was nothing up forward to kick to. And was worrying because that's what we saw in the Worsfold era, was where they didn't know where to kick. They were, handballing back and forth and going backwards and then, the bombing down the line that they just had. And Pidge did that a few times. He went back that old motor, he just grabs it and then like kicks it long to an opposition player. So there was no upfront targets.
So I listened to the Rudden post game conference, and something he talked about was not kicking it or bombing it in long to Geelong's backmen because they are quite adept at cutting off that sort of ball. But it looked like it spooked us. Like maybe the game plan was to like chip and try to chip it into our forward line. But a lot of the times it looked like we'd do a 10 or 15 metre kick, or if we didn't have that little short pass, like the players didn't want to move forward. Yeah. And then we were moving back or we were trying to hand pass it under pressure. And I feel like, so much has to be put on maybe the game plan we went in with. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about, team selection, not having a second ruckman. Peter Wright played a few ruck contests against Hawkins in the back line. So who are we going to kick it to in our forward line?
Yeah, I noticed that too. There was a few times when Peter Wright was playing at full back. And it's like, yeah, exactly right. And I think I said to you going in, I don't think Phillips would be a bad call to name as a sub or even on the bench, just so there is actually a second ruck. Because if we do pull Wright, then there is no tall target.
Yep.
And that's
what I think.
How big's Baldwin?
Huh?
How big's Baldwin? Is he
about 190?
He's not a 200 plus.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Stock, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. He's in there to play full forward, and you want him to play lead up forward. Right?
Well, that's the thing about I think 2 meter had the same thing last year where he didn't even play in the forward line. Like he wasn't picked up as an extra ruckman, but that's just how we started playing him. And it was when it took us 7 or 8 games just to get him in the forward line most of the time. He was playing because, when Draper went down early last year and then Flip had an injury too, he was pretty much rucking for half the year. I think we forget we picked him up as a forward, but unfortunately you just get, because he's a tall, he gets thrown around anywhere a tall's needed.
Here's the thing. I don't mind him pinch hitting in the ruck, but not in the defensive 50 against Hawkins.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
What hope is he
he's
going
not
to have?
going to beat the ball back.
Yeah,
No.
and we just talked about not bombing it into our forward line, but you need someone down the line who, if worst case scenario, you need to bomb it down the line, will compete. And we didn't have that, and that's maybe why at times we sideways handball, backwards handball. There were so many handballs into the ground to try to bounce it past the Geelong player.
I wanted to bring that point up. Is that a game plan? Because I was like, where has this come from? They're handballing into the ground to try and be shifty or cute under people's leg, trying to nutmeg people and stuff like this. But we were so terrible on the ground level that it just backfired for us.
After the St Kilda game, I said to you, it looked like we're playing with a bar of soap. I think I might have said that on this podcast. And I think the response was, well, Eddie had, and it's humid, and the ball gets a little bit slippery. It was not fucking humid yesterday. No. It was 31 degrees, dry as you like, open air MCG, Red Sharon, and we're still slipping and fumbling and dropping, and I don't know if it's the youngish, inexperienced side, the occasions getting the better of them. It's been a long preseason. We have all this hype. Mick Malthouse is touting this, and center is the midfield is being touted as this, and then it's just all of a sudden it doesn't just happen. But I'm pretty worried. We'll kind of get to it in terms of what does this mean for the rest of the year. But I'm far less optimistic today than I was on Saturday morning. All right, dare I say it, that was the good, the bad. Was there anything, and I said to you, you're going to have to narrow it down and pick 3. Anything in particular that stood out to you as just something that had you banging your head against the wall?
I can't limit it to 3, although I will.
First one that comes to mind then.
We were so under the pump that multiple times in the second quarter we handballed it over the boundary line to a player who was out of the field of play.
Stuart did that.
More than once. It didn't happen
when
once,
Stuart
it happened
did it
multiple times.
Yeah.
And you go, how incredibly just shell-shocked were we at that point? And obviously we were 60 points, more than 60 points down at half time, but it was a disgrace.
I had exactly that written down, and also in the second quarter, Peter Wright taking a bounce on the wing.
That bounce was
just
casual,
casual as you like, bounce it, cooks it, and I'm like,
turnover to a goal as well.
There's already a reason that we're 60 points down at halftime. We don't need the big ruckman trying to play a attacking mid. So I definitely had that in there too. But even if you looked, every time Geelong missed and we kicked out, it was stagnant. There was no one. Everyone was just standing there waving. There was no real moving around, no leading. For me, the number one was just no effort. It just felt like there was no real, that kind of old Essendon adage of you can tell what team is playing in the first 5 minutes of the first quarter. That's what it felt like. We were flat. And we just didn't ever get going until arguably there was a patch in the third where we stemmed the flow a little bit, and then obviously in the fourth we made the scoreline look a little bit better than the game that we played. But if we're going to be this blue-collar Bombers side and be a side that win, lose or draw, we're going to make sure that we're attacking and that we're hard at it. It just wasn't there, you know. We used to have an expression in year 11 when we were playing footy, and we used to come up against Scotch, who would thump us every week. It's like, you've lost the game, start a fight, so that at least you can win something, or at least you just get under the skin a little bit, that you try to razzle. But there was just none of it. It was just this lay down, it's kind of done before it's over. That's what it felt like. Russ, you're bad?
Yeah, look, I agree 100% with what both of you just said. For me, it was the disposals, like the handballs, like we said, just going to oppositions. You know, the kicks. Some of the kicks that were going, like, they weren't high execute. Like, even if you're an elite kicker, just why would you put it there? You kick into 2-on-1s. You're kicking it right next to the boundary. The sloppy kicking to go on top of that was the turnovers. It's mainly with getting out of the 50 as well. And you get out, and then it's just a turnover, and it's back in the 50. And we know how good they were once they got in 50, and it hurt. The ground ball, I thought we were just awful at, which I think comes to the effort. Anytime we went to ground, I was just like, okay, we've lost the ball. And especially if we're doing handballs into the ground to try and try and trick everyone. It just went straight into the opposition's hand. So, yeah, those are the two main things I was real disappointed with: the disposals on kicking and handballing, and then just the ground ball. Like, we went to ground, we lost.
Yep, I agree with you completely.
The ugly.
Again, I'll go back to the press conference. Ben Rudden said, something I didn't see coming. Probably something I didn't see coming. Well, as a coach, it is your one and only job to make sure the team's ready. And with such a long build-up pre-season to come in with that performance, I'm shell-shocked. I cannot express how frustrated I am with how they played. And even it seemed like we didn't have a game plan for Geelong.
Yeah.
You saw him in the box as well. They multiple times they went over to see what Ben Rudden was thinking or doing, and he looked shocked when they panned out to him in the box, just sitting there, just blank faced. I agree with him. He was shocked, but like you said, look, that's his job, is to think of every contingency, and we had none. Which is also last year, the same thing happened. There was a lot of pressure on him last year for not changing game plans mid-game when we were losing, and it was just, we had the one game plan, and so maybe this is going to be the same year where we don't have a backup plan.
Is there an element of, this is not the year that we're contending? They're still not in that window where we're seriously contending for top 4, and so you're willing to take a big burn because the structures and the game plan that you're trying to implement haven't been fully embraced and immersed and learned, and you're willing to let the players learn the lesson of what happens when those structures break down. You take the hit this year, building into next year that they'll learn the lessons. Do you think there's an element of that live or die by the sword? Like, if this is going to eat it, if we believe this is the game plan and the structures that are going to make us a contender, that in the short term we're willing to get opened up by 80 points to learn those?
Yep. I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but no, like, I don't think there's any game plan or any game that you can really learn out of by losing by 60 to 80 points.
What's the remedy there? What would you do? You're sitting in Rutten's seat. It's halfway through the first quarter. We're down by 6 goals. Are we just going to start trying to lock down? Do you start trying to tag a Dangerfield, tag a Selwood, double team a Hawkins?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's two parts. It's almost what you referenced before, where it's like, at quarter time, give them a bake. Like, you're 6 goals to 1 at quarter time, or 6 goals to 2 maybe. Like, what can we do from this moment on? Because it didn't work in the first quarter. Yeah. And if you do it the exact same way the second quarter, which they did, and we're now down by 60 points, like, what are you going to do at halftime? And the second part is, I just thought the team selection was all wrong. Like, I don't think Ham should have come in. I think we should have gone in with another tall. I think Phillips might have been a perfect, just like, foil forward and pinch hit in the ruck. Yeah.
Maybe Hobbs, bigger body.
He's 19.
I know, but he's
He's not gonna that might have been made more sense, but Hobbs wasn't going to stop an avalanche of goals like that. I think, I'm with you boys. I think maybe an extra tall would have been good. We know that they play very tall with Radaglia and their forward line. It's strange we didn't have another tall in there. I think Flip, you're right, could have been, in hindsight, a really good choice to even as a sub.
To his credit, I thought Cutler obviously came on early, but made the most of it. I think he finished up with 24. Didn't have a bad day.
Yeah, I was going to say, he had a lot of possessions, but typical Cutler, not much was done with those possessions.
Well, I don't think much was done by Merritt's 38.
Yeah, true. Very true. Very true.
For me, my ugly was Langford's hamstring. It's the same one he's done a few times now. It's now a chronic hamstring that keeps getting done on the same side. That worries me for Langer's, not necessarily obviously his immediate future when he's back in the side, but he's in his 9th season now, and I think he is around just over, not quite at 150, I think.
Between that
so he's
150 mark.
he's averaging only I think 16 or 17 games a year, and it tends to be this hamstring that keeps him out. So that's my ugly. He's done it again, and the footage of when he did it, you couldn't even really tell. They thought it was his knee. Maybe he jarred his knee in that marking contest. He didn't grab at it, which is usually a good sign. But if it is a chronic one, it's going to take longer to come back every time he does it. I think he's still going to miss 3 to 4.
Watching it live, it just looked like a normal hamstring. I was on the far side of the ground, and it was like, oh, Langford's done his hammy. And it was like, yep, walked straight off. It was like, clear as day, I would have thought. Russ, you're ugly.
Tom Hawkins. Tom Hawkins for me. His face, the way he played against us, like...
He's a very good-looking lad. I'm not sure you can call him ugly.
Oh, mate.
He's very good-looking.
Fucking plastic boy.
I reckon he definitely took the gas off. Like, he did a couple of sneaky handballs and off to other players to get a couple of goals. And I think he felt bad how many goals he was scoring at one point against us and started handballing up. He could have walked away with 10, I honestly believe, in that game if he gave 100% and played selfish. There was a few... Once he gave away.
That's his game, though. Like, when he was winning the Coleman, he was also leading the comp in goal assists, right? Like, that's his game.
We had nothing to... Look, I guess what I'm saying is we had nothing to stop him down. There was times when they were, like, putting it in 2-on-1s, and he was still just coming through and, like, taking clean marks. We had nothing that we could do to stop him. Yeah, and it's not good that we knew that was going to happen. Like, we talk about game plans, like, and game selections and who we're going to play. We knew that he's that type of player, and we've been saying it since the podcast started that I was worried about in game 1 because we can't take care of people like Hawkins and that forward line, especially him. We had no answers to how to stop him.
I agree completely. In the first quarter, watching him and Cameron in tandem. Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier, Russ. Like, we could have lost by 100 points comfortably if Cameron had played out the game.
Yeah.
It would have been like, absolutely an annihilation.
The same thing happened last year. Cameron
played more than a half against us.
The last 2 times we've played him, we've been lucky not to lose by 80 to 100 points because he's been injured. So
yeah, he's been injured twice in the last 2 years. Hasn't played a 2 full quarters. And still kicked 4 and 5 goals off us each game. Hasn't even played a full 4 quarters.
Yeah. Well, I think, Geelong started slow last year. I guess I was pretty hopeful that might be the case this year as well. Do you want to grab yourself another one?
No, I'll sit out.
I've lost my chain of thought there. But, I think, do you think the loss hurts even more given that we've just seen Collingwood and Carlton, both those big rival teams that we expect ourselves to be better than, both start off the year pretty well, looked pretty decent, or does it just hurt, regardless?
I think it hurts. I think round 1 doesn't mean as much as we're obviously feeling right now. This is the short-term pain, but at the end of the day, it's just one game. But having watched almost every game so far this round, Carlton looked very good, and we had a stinker. Collingwood at times looked really good, and we had a stinker. Hawthorn won today. All of our rivals played alright. And I haven't seen too many really poor performances from other teams. I didn't see the Hawthorn and Kangaroos game, so hopefully they both played terrible and we're better than them this year.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is just round one, and so many crazy things do happen round one. Like Suns have won their first 2 games of the last 4 seasons, I think, and then finished last. So round one isn't the be or end all. The only problem is we've lost round one, and then we're going into playing Melbourne, and then we're playing Bulldogs, and then that's
so we played Brisbane, then we played. See, I thought Brisbane looked good in that sort of like last quarter and a bit. I thought the first half they were both shocking. Yeah. Like Brisbane and Port, they had like so many turnovers, but like how can we talk?
Yeah.
So what does this mean, boys? For me, it means the fucking pressure is on next week, because I think what's more important than the result this week is how we respond next week. And I think if we're looking at what would be worse than 2-0 again is 2 60, 70, 80 point absolute thumpings in consecutive weeks.
That's what I was thinking too, because those percentage points, like for me, I know you blokes have a little bit higher up in the ending sort of predictions, but I had them at that 7 or 8 like position again next year. And percentage, when you get into those positions, is everything, because everyone finishes around the 8 with similar sort of wins. It's that percentage that makes a difference at the end of the season.
Well, that's what got us through. That's what's gotten us through most years, that we finished 8th.
Yeah,
we've been tied on points for the most part.
Yeah, well, last season I think we were lucky that we spanked St Kilda, we spanked Kangaroos a couple of times. That really boosted our percentage up above 100. And we had a couple of early losses to Port and Brisbane.
Yeah, as I say, we smashed. Yeah, we got done just by as many as we got over or smashed though.
Most of ours were within, like the wins were within 2 goals and the losses were within 2 goals. We got smashed a couple of times and we smashed a few other people. But yeah, you never want to start that low in percentage. Like we're going to be bottom of the ladder for sure. I know all the games aren't done, but I can almost guarantee you we're going to be bottom of the ladder. And fighting that percentage from the first round, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I think if I was to put a positive on it, we just need to get through to about round 4 when they're expecting Jones to be back, potentially Snelling to be back, hopefully Stringer's already playing, and we've got an easier draw from then on. And then,
but the thing is, we don't have a good draw until round 10. We're playing last year's top 8 in the first 10 rounds. Like we have
we play Collingwood, we play Adelaide. We've got a few winnable games. So the first 3, like if you're 0-3, it is a bit doom and gloom. But as I said, you want to come away from those games feeling like you're not far off it.
Competing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think after the first 3 games, we'll know where we're at. If we're 0-3 and our percentage is 50, I think you go, there's no way we're going to make the top 8. If we're 0-3, but we've been really competitive, potentially we could have won one of those games, you go, all right, when we've actually got a complement of players, I feel like we could obviously get our season back on track.
Yeah, I think, like you said, we've got that Adelaide, we've got that Collingwood, and we've got that Fremantle game.
Fremantle look good, though.
They don't just need to be wins, they need to be 8, 9, 10 goal wins. So, all right. Anyway, I think we've kind of said we could keep talking about the things that we didn't like for the next 2.5 hours. We're trying to be a little bit more mindful of time with these episodes. So yeah, I mean, let's start by looking forward to next week, and I want to get towards locks. Your boy Wanganeen didn't get the pick. Is he coming up? Do you think we need to really shake up selection going forward, or is it you're sticking pretty much with the 22 that played this week, bar maybe 1 or 2 structural changes, and you're saying, all right, this is the chance against Melbourne is a redemption game, and this is the game that a lot of you are playing for your spots, and does that conversation extend to guys like Devon Smith and Dyson Heppel and Dylan Shield?
Yeah, I can see 3 changes being made. So Langford's obviously out injured, so we need a replacement for him. I can see Ham being dropped, so there's a second player.
Ham locked out Baldwin.
Baldwin, I think, gets another gig
No, definitely
because Jones is out and Stringer's out. Oh, I haven't heard good things about Stringer
In the VFL.
getting through that Pracky match, in the VFL.
Did he get through though, or did he?
He got through. He looked not.
He
so
looked
fit.
very, very hollow.
I would rather have him out for the first 3 games than do what we always do and rush him back because we need him.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to see is us rush him back. Play another game, get comfortable.
Yeah.
Guelphy?
So there's a few players that are on the edge. I would love to see Wanganeen come in, and I think he could take Ham's spot. I'd like to see either Phillips or Francis come in as another tall. And that way, maybe if Wright does have to pinch hit, at least you've got a tall forward. Obviously, if Phillips plays, then he can play that role instead of Wright. Lock in Martin. Can't see him being dropped.
What about Russ's boy Waterman? How far off do you think is he potentially getting a call up as a forward?
I have not heard one word about Waterman in pre-season. Not a peep.
We talked about this last week. I was like, I put the question out there: is he injured? What's happening? Because I've heard nothing about Waterman all preseason. He hasn't played any of the preseason games. It's strange because there's just been nothing out of the camp about Waters. But yeah, I reckon if you're changing things up, he could easily lock into that small forward role that we're sort of, anywhere from taking Guelphy out. I didn't think Guelphy had such a bad game. Like, I did like his energy and intensity in the last week's, also yesterday's game. But definitely Ham out for sure.
I always think Guelphy's in our best, but
what about Cox? What did you guys think about it?
I have Cox here on my question for Lockie. Do you think Cox did enough to stay in the side for next week? He had 15.
I think he looks very underdone, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's fitness based or a little bit of like a slight change of role. I feel like he struggled.
The commentary did say that he looked like he was sort of, trying to find that role for him and sort of questioning if he was supposed to be a wingman or, for me, wasn't not much of a standout. If he's missed next week, so be it. If he's still in there, okay.
Dylan Shield and Matt Guelphy both leading the way with 4 tackles apiece.
Like I said before, I like Shield. Yesterday, I think he played a pretty good game. He hasn't played a lot of football. I think he showed some promise.
Cool. Locks. Ham definitely out. I'd bring in Wanganeen for him, and I would say that Francis or your boy Flip will get a call up.
Flip will be getting the call up onto the coasters too if he makes it back in. Because Gawn is a pretty versatile ruckman, so I think that Draper's going to need more than just someone to pinch hit for here and there. It probably makes sense to play 2 against Gawn. So we shall see. Quick draw questions.
All right, keep it quick this week. All right. My biggest one this week, we've talked a lot about the forward structure and, hypothesized all these different things in preseason. Even in the media, they're talking about where the goals are going to come from and our tools and if we've got enough. And, I was listening to the Stash Boys talk last week on their podcast.
We're keeping it quick.
All right. This is the big... All right. Stop getting in front of my segments, all right? Don't chirp on you. Let's just keep it quiet and then I'm asking the questions.
Are you? You've got to take your time getting to them, that's for sure.
I did listen to the Sash Boys talk about the forward structure and they were big on board when going in there and they did talk a lot. Who do we take out? And everyone's sort of seen Peter Wright being that lock in a forward. My question is Peter Wright in our best 22? Still.
Right now, yes. I think with Jones...
With a fully fit team, though, I'm talking our best 22 in Bombers.
Yep.
Everyone's fit. Is he in our best 22?
I left him out of our best 22. I had Jones and Francis.
Yep. You're right. Yeah. At the time, I did. Yeah. I fought you on that one.
Yep.
My answer is yes as well.
He's in there?
Yep.
I don't know. I'm having my doubts. Like, I just don't.
We sort of said last week, if Wright does his job and kicks 2 or 3 a week, then he's having a really good year, and that's what you want to get out of him. He kicked these 2 goals yesterday.
But did he do enough when he wasn't? Yeah, he kicked 2 goals. One of them was a free kick, I think, wasn't it? So things have to go your way that way.
Well, in a position to earn a free kick, I guess.
Not always, but was he bringing the ball to ground? He was last man up in a lot of the contests. He was out muscled in a lot of contests. Was he bringing the ball down to our mids, to the small forwards? Because we all identified that's a big thing too, is the fact that we're going to score a lot of goals from our smalls and from the midfielders, getting those ground balls. I didn't see it from him yesterday.
Yeah, I thought it was very poor, even though he kicked 2 goals. But
yeah.
Having said that, he was forced to pinch hit in the ruck. He was forced to push into our back line. So I think with circumstance, he got shafted a little bit.
All right, so Jones and Baldwin, Francis, and Mead are probably our sort of 4 tall issues we have in our forward line. Do you leave out Do you play Francis instead of Peter right now and Baldwin?
How do you have Baldwin in the best 22 when he's played 1 game and kicked 1 out on the full?
Because I think we know Peter Wright's ceiling at the moment is not going to be that great.
But we know Peter Wright's potential is the ability to kick 7.
In 1 game, he kicked 30 goals last year. 7 of them came in 1 game. He doesn't play 1 game and, or have a purple game. Sometimes you just have a lucky game. Let's take that 1 game he played that. He's got 22 goals.
Yeah, look, I think he played his role last year, and I think if you're expecting him to be a 50-plus a year goal kicker, he's just not going to be that player. But I think you need him to be a 30-plus a season goal kicker, and then he is in our best 22.
Okay. Yep.
He's not our number 1. He's not a number 1 key forward. He's not.
Well, he's supposed to be. That's why he picked him up.
He's being forced to play a role because it's round 1 and we already don't have the forward stocks
No, we picked him up as a full forward. What's his role then if he's on the forward line? He's not a ruckman.
Centre half. I think yesterday watching Brisbane, I said to Lockie, fuck the King brother, we should make another move for Danaher and bring him back because he was supposed to be our monster forward. And that is what you want Peter Wright to be, but he just doesn't have the athleticism that Danaher has, which is why Danaher doesn't need to be 106 kilos, right?
Yeah.
Next question.
All right.
A short question, Russ.
Next one. It'll be short. With our best 22 fit and running, do we win? Would we have won yesterday?
No.
Next question.
Okay. Do you think Cade Baldwin is going to stay in the forward line now?
I think we just covered it. I think for right now he does because we don't have many other options. We've got Stringer out and we've got Jones still out, and which might be a good thing. I think maybe your first game you do get a bit nervous. There is a lot of pressure on, so maybe now he's got that out of the way. But it's not going to get easier playing on Jake Lever or Stephen May.
Look, I didn't think he had a stinker yesterday. I think he could have actually kicked 2 goals.
I think it was just first round nerves, to be honest. I didn't think he played too bad. It just looked like someone's playing his first game.
Yeah, and I think as Ben just mentioned, with Jones out potentially for the first month, I think it's a great opportunity for him to actually string together 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
And then you might say after that point, you know what, we've had enough of a look at you. You're just not quite at this level yet. And then he gets dropped back to the VFL.
Kick a few bags in the VFL.
Yeah. But I do definitely see him as a player of the future. So you need to put a little bit of time into it.
I guess that's where I sort of see it too. I'll agree with you there. I see him as one of the future forwards for us. I see Peter Wright as a band-aid at the moment. I don't see him. I think his ceiling's too low. This guy's ceiling's a lot. I feel like could be a lot higher and it could be something for the future. Like he was going to be a top 10 pick until he did his ACL in year 12.
Jones worries me, injury-wise too. Now, for such a young player to have had such an inconsistent run and a lot of recurring foot. What's this one? Knee? His foot again?
Foot, I believe.
Ankle, I think it was, wasn't it? It was ankle, but non-syndesmosis.
Something going on there.
Yeah.
Good.
Any more quick draw questions, Russ?
All right. after yesterday's performance, how worried are you that we could go 2-8 with the first 10 rounds we've had?
Pretty fucking worried. Next question.
That's it.
Very, very, very worried.
Yeah.
What,
I see us looking after yesterday being. I'm hopeful we're 2-8 after yesterday's performance, seeing what we've got in the first 10 rounds.
Yeah.
Look, it comes down to this week against the D's. If we put in a showing but lose the game, I'm less worried.
Brisbane.
Is Brisbane this week?
Yeah, Brisbane. Sorry, I got it wrong before.
Well, even my opinion doesn't change. If we put in an effort this week and we lose, but we lose by 2 goals, maybe it was there, we led for a bit and just kind of got outrun or overrun in the end, I'm much less worried. If this is another 10-goal game, how many 10-goal losses against top 4 sides consecutively do you have before you start to feel like, is the pressure on Rutten now? Like, is it? Have we really regressed that far in a season that was supposed to bring so much?
That's kind of where I was getting to with this question, and that's a good question because you bring up Rutten. You go 2-10 or 2-8, and then with all the hype that we've had, I think people start asking that question very early on, and I think he is the right man for us, and I like what he's doing. But I don't want people to panic and go, let's get rid of someone. Because at 2-8, halfway through a season, people will start asking those questions. And me is going to go hard at him too.
Yeah. I don't want to get us too in-depth into this, but I think just looking at our forward line outs, Stringer, Jones, Snelling, Tipper, Langford now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you can expect much the next 3 weeks. And I think
what's the plan there?
Well, I just want to finish. If you were a naive supporter and thinking we were going to win 2 of our first 3 or be 3-0, I think you'll get the biggest reality check ever. We're not there.
We said that. Yeah, we've been saying that. We would be happy with 2-5, but like Ben said, it's the effort, and that's what scares us now. It's the effort that wasn't there, and the game plan didn't look like it was there, and the effort wasn't there. I was okay losing yesterday, and I tipped we were going to lose, and I was happy to lose knowing the outs we have. But what scared us is, the effort and the lack of game plan.
Yeah.
Well, I'm never happy to lose. Who takes Danaher? Laverde?
Laverde, yeah. No, Laverde. I reckon Stewart takes him.
Saw yesterday. I'm not sure if he'll get up. Yeah, you'd hope he would. I think Ridley can be versatile enough to play that role.
Very deep though for Ridley.
To take Danaher?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't agree with that one. I reckon Stewart gets in.
Well, do you think Laverde is taller than Ridley? I think they're pretty much.
I wouldn't put Laverde. I would put Stewart. I wouldn't put Laverde or I reckon Stewart would be able to contain or could outbody him.
I like to think Laverde is the most likely to give Danaher a bit of an ear massage.
Yeah, I'll be happy with that. If he's just purely there to get in his head,
He just seems like too nice a guy.
He is too nice.
Who takes Cameron?
Well, that's what we got Kelly in for. I think Kelly plays.
Yeah, I was going to say, Kelly for sure. I didn't mind him yesterday. He showed some good signs, and I reckon definitely Kelly.
I think the worry was Stengel kicked 4 goals as a small forward, and we always talk about small forwards torching us. So potentially that's like who was Kelly playing on?
I think they rotated around quite a bit, to be honest.
Yeah.
Did Redmond have him in one stage?
Like I thought we brought Kelly over to be a lockdown player on a small forward, and obviously he could play other roles, but when you've got a small forward that's maybe going to get off the leash, you just absolutely lock them down. Didn't say
No, you're right. He was supposed to be that lockdown. That's 100% what we bought him for.
Yeah.
Mids have got work to do through the middle of the ground this week.
Boy, do they ever.
I think everyone does. Everyone's got a bit of work to do, to be honest.
Anyway, we'll leave the discussion for Brisbane. VFLW update. No game as far as I could tell from this week, but the big news is Natalie Wood has been given the job to be our inaugural AFLW coach. So she comes across, she was an assistant midfield coach at the Western Bulldogs AFLW side after a stint at Geelong, and she was also the head of Geelong VFLW side for a time as well. And she played 197 games for Darebin and Melbourne Uni. So that's firming up, and given the winning records of our VFLW team versus the effort and performance that we saw from our AFL team yesterday, that might be the one that we're watching next year.
I was on the train ride home, Russ, and we were talking to a couple other Bombers supporters, and we mentioned the AFL VFLW, and talking about like Essendon's fine. We just might have to skip to the VFL side or the VFLW side, and that's the team we follow this season. Doom and gloom.
We're handing out podcasts about flies on the train, were you?
Lachie was doing a bit of PR yesterday at the MCG for us.
Trying my best, Russ.
I was at the AFL launch, but on Friday night doing the same thing, trying to get away the big wigs. I was there for my full-time job, and started talking about the Truth Bombers podcast to all the big wigs at the season launch for Marvel Stadium.
We need to start getting some business cards made up that have a QR code that people can scan that goes straight to the YouTube page for people to watch. Oh, here we go. The youngest supporter busting in.
Is that Bombers? She's just casually walk around with the Bombers shirt on all the time?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Just the weekend. She was wearing Bombers gear. Any final thoughts? Any around the grounds? Anything that you've seen?
Nothing further to mention.
Just close the book on round one, and hopefully it's
let's just move on.
Recover for this week against the Lions.
Absolutely.
All right, mate. Hope you're feeling better soon.
I promise I'll be back. I know I said last week, but I'll be back next week. Studio.
All right, mate. We'll speak soon. All right.
See you guys.
See ya. Fucking round one.